to the Kessler Theater. My name is Jeff Wiles, aka Cottonmouth, Texas. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the history of Dallas music and how we all ended up here tonight. If you guys are like me, you grew up somewhere in the suburbs in Dallas, and as a teenager, you probably went to a school where there was like 3 different kinds of people. There were the socials, the jocks, and the cheerleaders, and the people that you would never hang out with in a million years. And there were the nerds, the people whose parents worked at Texas Instruments or Collins Radio. You could tell they were smart. You could tell they were going to grow up to be doctors, lawyers, politicians, whatever the fuck. And then there was the freaks. There were the kids that had long hair, kids that loved music, kids that knew they were going to end up being a musician or end up doing something in the music business. And I figured out pretty early that's what's going to be my trip. One of the things that we did religiously is every Saturday afternoon we'd go to the mall and go to the music store, either McCord Music or Arnold and Morgan or Melody Shop, and sit in there all afternoon and play the guitars. Even if we didn't even know how to play guitar, you'd walk in there and you'd hear a 15-year-old kid from Duncanville playing Smoke on the Water, or you'd see another kid in there playing Stranglehold or some shit like that. So I talked my parents into buying me a guitar, and started taking guitar lessons about a year long every week, and that was a huge deal. I mean, it was it was the first thing I ever made a real commitment to, and I never ended up being a very good guitar player, but I knew enough about this that it was going to be the thing that I cared about more than anything else in the world. And like a lot of kids, we all went through our favorite bands. The first favorite band I ever had was the Beatles, of course. And then the kid across the alley, Bob Watson, who was the lead guitarist of Shallow Rain. Back when we were in 6th grade, his favorite band was the Rolling Stones. So we used to have these arguments across the alley of who was better between the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Well, I was pretty adamant that the Beatles were the best band in the world. That was until I heard Led Zeppelin. And then Led Zeppelin completely blew my mind. I was like 15 years old. And Led Zeppelin had this emotional connection to Dallas. A lot of the songs that they stole, a lot of the blues songs that they stole, were originally recorded in Dallas at 508 Park Avenue. And when they were first getting going, Led Zeppelin hired Showco, which was a Dallas production company, to build their stage and build their lighting system and their lasers and all that. So Led Zeppelin would come to town for 2 or 3 weeks before their tour started, and they would practice at Irving at the location out there. And then on weekend nights they would go to Mother Blues, which was this bar on Lemon Avenue. And of course we weren't old enough to get in Mother Blues, but what we did is we would go down there and park out back and wait for them to come out, and then bum rush them as they were trying to get in their limousine. Well, in 1977, Led Zeppelin announced that they were going to come play at Dallas Memorial Auditorium. And back then, you didn't buy tickets online. There wasn't an internet yet. You had to go camp out in front of the ticket place. So that's what we did. We would go down there downtown in front of the box office at Memorial Auditorium and spend the night out there. Sometimes people would spend 2 or 3 nights out there. The tickets for Led Zeppelin went on sale on Saturday morning, and the people started gathering there on Wednesday night. By Friday night, it looked like fucking Woodstock. There was like literally 5,000 people down there, people who haven't showered in a week, dogs, people throwing frisbees. It was awesome. So Led Zeppelin was supposed to come in the early part of March in '77, and after the tickets went on sale, they announced that the show was going to be postponed to April 1st. So we didn't know if this was like an April Fool's joke or if the show was really going to happen or what. During that downtime, in between the time that the tickets went on sale And the time that the show actually happened, somebody printed up about 5,000 counterfeit tickets that looked exactly like the real ones. There was no way you could differentiate between the two. Little sparkles on them and everything. Great detail. So the night of the show happened, and I went down there, and of course there was somebody sitting in my seats when I got there. With the same ticket, same number. There was no argument about it. There was nothing I could do. He got there first. So I ended up watching that whole show standing in an aisle. But it was an amazing night because Led Zeppelin was my favorite band in the world. But that was the first time that one of my favorite bands in the world had ever let me down. And that's because it was obvious they hadn't rehearsed in about a year. They were really out of sync, really sloppy. They weren't even looking at each other. The guys in the band weren't even making eye contact with each other. But it was still heavy. It was still just amazing to be there. But that was an interesting time because rock and roll in and of itself was kind of in a crisis of conscience at the time. There was this other kind of music called disco music. And this huge movement against it. Disco sucks. You were either on one side of the fence or the other. You were either a rock and roll person or you were into this new shit, this Bee Gees shit. That didn't work for a lot of people. And at the time, a lot of our favorite rock and roll bands started to suck. I hate to say that, but that's what happened. They didn't really rise to the occasion. They didn't really take this new music down. So that left the door kind of ajar for this other kind of music, which was punk rock. And punk rock blew our fucking minds. Because while Led Zeppelin was doing this music like All of My Love and all this shit that didn't even have any guitars in it, here was this other kind of music that came out of nowhere. I walked into this record store one day, and the guy behind the counter reached behind the counter and handed me the Sex Pistols record. He said, "You'll like this. No one else does." So I was like, fucking A. I looked at this record. I didn't know what the word bollocks meant. No one in America used the word bollocks. And I'm looking at the titles of the songs, and I didn't know what the word anarchy meant. I didn't know where the UK was. I didn't know any of this shit, what they were talking about. But this record, the second that I put it on, it just fucking jumped out of the speakers. And it was one of those moments, I was like, fuck, this is the new thing. This is really what people are into now. And in 1978, the second week of January, Sex Pistols came to Dallas. And they booked a show at the Longhorn Ballroom. Now, if you lived out in far north Dallas, you probably didn't know much about the Longhorn Ballroom until you got there. It was this fucking, well, you know what it is, you've been to the Longhorn. Fuck yeah! Anyway, we went down. There was $3.50 to get in. It was a Tuesday night. Didn't really know what to expect. But again, like the Led Zeppelin show, here was this band that came out that we were really into, and they just came out and sucked. They were terrible. But it was still, you could tell it was still a moment. It was still an important moment in Dallas music. And I can remember the next day going to school. I was in 11th grade. And I was still wearing my black leather pants from the night before. And I was standing in the back of my first period class, biology class, and the teacher was Coach Moore. He was the football coach. And I was telling the kids about the show, this, little group of kids in the back of the room about the show. And Coach Moore heard just a few of the words I was saying. I don't think he got the full context of what I was talking about. So the bell rang. And I think he was going to try and embarrass me or something. He said, "Before we get started today, I think I'm going to let Jeff come up here to the front of the class and tell everybody about his Sex Pistol." I was like, "What? Come on up here, Jeff. Tell us about your Sex Pistol." I think he thought I was talking about being with a girl or something the night before. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I walk up there in my black leather pants. I was like, okay, so me and these two other guys from Richardson High School drove down to this country and western bar on South Dallas, on the other side of downtown last night, and there were these four guys from England there playing. They were yelling and screaming, and everybody was jumping up and down and tackling each other. Coach Moore looked at me and goes, "Jeff, are you high right now?" I said, "Coach Moore, it's only 8:30 in the morning." He was like, "Come outside." Took me out in the hall. It's like, Jeff, I don't know what you were talking about, but I don't want to ever hear you talking about that again. It's like, okay, Coach Moore, so I did that. Second period class, world geography. Going to Mrs. Graham's class. Mrs. Graham looks at me, the bell rings, she's like, Jeff, come out in the hall. So I went out in the hall, she goes, don't ever wear those pants to school again. I was like, how come? She goes, you're being a distraction. So I skipped the rest of the day. Went home, cooled out, smoked pot, did my thing. But anyway, that was a key time. About 1978, music started to change, punk rock started to change. Started to hang out at different record stores. When I first met Mark, he was working at a record store called VVV. And that's where we got a lot of the first industrial records, first electronic music, first really experimental records. It was Mark who turned us on to it, Mark and Neil Caldwell. There was the center of gravity in Dallas for music had moved around from place to place. When I was in high school, for most of the time it was on Northwest Highway. You had Cardi's or U2 did their first show. You had the Agora Ballroom where King Crimson played, and the Talking Heads, and Peter Gabriel. And then as I got older, the center of gravity for music kind of moved to Little Greenville. And the Arcadia Theater started putting on amazing shows. So I saw The Cure the first time. And the original Poor David's Pub, amazing shows, Guy Clark, people like that. And Tango was a trip. I remember seeing Jaco Pastorius' last Dallas show there. I remember walking back behind the place there. Jaco and his band had just got off stage, and they were back in the alley in this kind of this warmth, this glow, this having just put on an amazing show, you know. And I sparked up a joint and got to know him and everything. And it was really cool. And then he died not too long after that. But anyway, I ended up getting in this band called Group 6. And Group 6 was kind of a leftover punk rock band from the 80s. They were called The Dude before that. And it was the first band that I was ever in. And that turned me on to a whole different world too. Because at the same time, George Gamark was doing the rock and roll alternative, which introduced a ton of us to alternative music. And I remember that Sunday night hearing our song on there for the first time. And for a kid, you know, who had grown up in the suburbs and didn't really know what he was going to do, to be in a band and actually have your song played on the radio was a huge fucking deal. Hearing it that Sunday night, I kind of realized that I could do this if I really wanted to. Maybe not be a musician, but I could do something in this business. So I went down to downtown Dallas. On the outskirts of downtown Dallas, there was this warehouse district. And this guy named Russell Hobbs had rented this building, 2808 Commerce. He had taken a bunch of materials left over from a construction job and built the interior of this place, kind of like this, with a balcony made out of plywood. It had a bar that he had taken out of an old Mexican bar. That was a boat. It was half of a boat, and he nailed it to the wall, and that was the bar. And the stage came from this really amazing event that had happened downtown. In 1984, the Republican convention came to town. And that was a huge event. It taught me a lot about activism, taught me a lot about what people really care about. I didn't really know what to expect when I went down there, but there was about 2,000 or 3,000 people down there who would come in from all over the country. They were there to protest everything in the world. I couldn't believe it. Everybody had an issue. Some of these people had on costumes. They were doing street theater. All this stuff was incredible. But the main thing that happened that evening was that the Dead Kennedys played.